The death toll has climbed in last night's terror attacks in Paris. Paris prosecutor Francois Molon says 129 are dead and 352 are wounded. He called the attacks coordinated, saying at least 3 teams of terrorists carried out the assaults. Elaine.
Well, the prosecutor has raised the number of victims. He said 129 are now confirmed dead. More than 350 are injured, 99 of them in critical condition. He said that they discovered 2 bodies at the football stadium, and one definitely appeared to have been a suicide bomber. He also said it seemed clear from the spin of the attacks and the way they were carried out that there were 3 teams running a very coordinated operation. They're trying to identify who they may have been, and so the police have already formally identified one of the terrorists, who was a young man born in November 1985. He was known to the police, but only as a petty criminal. He'd been convicted 8 times, but he never served jail time. But 5 years ago, he did raise red flags for what the French call the S list, which is anyone with some suspected terror links. So he had been on this list. Now, that doesn't mean he was suspected of being actively involved, but it means he had raised a red flag so that if he had been traveling, for example, any customs officer looking at the passport could have checked and said, oh, wait a minute, we may want to talk to you a bit more.
And Elaine, we also heard a little bit of the information regarding the 3 individuals who were arrested. What did he tell us about that? He said that they live in Belgium.
Yes, the Belgian authorities got involved in this because the 2 vehicles used in the attacks in Paris, specifically at the Bataclan concert hall, were registered in Belgium. They had Belgian license plates. They had been rented, and they were traced back. One of them was traced back to a Frenchman resident in Belgium. So they contacted the Belgian authorities immediately, and that's where the arrests came from there. And of course, the Belgian authorities confirming that they had carried out that search and come up with the suspects there.
Elaine, we are just getting some new information into our CBSN newsroom. According to a U.S. law enforcement official, 1 American has died in these attacks. That's from our senior producer with our investigative unit, Len Tepper, who tells us a U.S. law enforcement official is now confirming 1 American has died in that attack. Elaine, I want to ask you about what he said, what the French prosecutor said regarding how heavily armed these terrorist groups were. What did he tell us about that?
He told us that they were heavily armed and that they were, there was a certain level of explosive devices they had with them. I'm sorry, I haven't noted the entire lot here, but there was reference to the suicide bombers at the stadium who wore explosives and detonated the explosives as they were in the stadium.
We know also that the prosecutor said Iraq and Syria were mentioned as well.
Yes, Syria and Iraq are, of course, the places where many of the jihadis from France have been trying to go to fight with Islamic State militants. And that is largely what gets people onto the French terror watch list, because they have a list of some 1,200 people, possibly more, who have either been to Syria or northern Iraq, or who have been trying to go, or who have come back. So that's something that raises red flags with them. And they did find Syrian passports in the stadium. However, the public prosecutor did stress that the passport they found for a Syrian who was born in 1990, that person is not known to French intelligence services.
And remind us again, Elaine, for viewers who are just joining us, we are recapping what it is that the French prosecutor said about the investigation into these attacks. He talked about 3 teams of attackers here. What did he say about how closely coordinated they were?
said that there were clearly 3 teams of terrorists who were very coordinated. He said that when the people who were questioned by police spoke about Syria and Iraq, raising the question of the possibility that they were involved with jihadis who generally head to that region. He said the 7 terrorists who are known to them used Kalashnikov weapons. They used identical explosives, which is how they could work out how well coordinated they were. And he said also it was very clear that they wanted to cause maximum number of victims.
I wonder, Elaine, if you've heard anything, whether or not, I know that the French president, Francois Hollande, spoke earlier today at the Élysée Palace. Are there any indications that he might speak again now that there are some additional details here regarding this investigation?
There's no immediate plan for him to speak, but he's bound to speak in coming days. This is something the president is being kept informed on. He's meeting with his prime minister, interior and justice ministers all the time. And he has also called, of course, for a minute's silence on Monday, which will be observed in Paris in memory of the victims. So the president is definitely being kept informed. At the moment, we don't know of any immediate plans of his to talk again to the French public, but it is highly likely that he will do so in coming days, given the nature of the attacks and given the nature of the fear around the country now.
Yeah, I want to make sure, too, because he said something that I think is really interesting this morning, talked about these attacks being prepared, organized, and planned from abroad with complicity from the inside. We didn't hear anything, though, in this latest update here from the French prosecutor, did we? Any kind of specifics regarding that?
No, the prosecutor didn't go into any specifics on that, but it's quite possible that the president is revealing lines of inquiry or things he knows that the public prosecutor isn't yet ready to say. He's very careful always to give full details of what is actually known, and if they're still following the line of inquiry and haven't confirmed it, he's less likely from past experience with him to actually bring it up. So it's quite probable that that is a line of inquiry and an active line of inquiry, but that does not mean that they're ready to talk about it yet.
All right. Elaine Cobbe reporting from Paris for us tonight. Elaine, thank you so much.